Here's a theory. The strong, independent black woman is showing her biggest weakness now. It's being too good for herself. Let me explain something to y'all. I would really want you to watch this video because I watched this whole shit unfold. And some of the shit, I called it before it's even started happening. All you have to do is go check my YouTube videos out. See, for years and years, going back all the way to the 60s, remember when women were talking about how men leave the situation and men walk out on them and all of that stuff? It's looking like that's a lie now. So you can trust and believe that there was a buildup to get to the point that we are now. I'm here since the 80s, and in the 80s and 90s, it was listen to me and talk back and this, that, and the third. Tell me how you feel. And we didn't. And somehow that kept the peace. Then the 2000s came, and early on in the internet, we started to learn that we could interact with people who weren't close to us, or whatever the case may be. But it wasn't huge when it first started. You know what I'm saying? Very few people had AOL and all of those stuff and things, and even MySpace. Very few people had computers in their home. So it wasn't really widespread, and those things started to change. Then with MySpace, we started to really get to learn things. MySpace, then Mocha Space, and all of those things, and you started to see, okay, well, here's some opportunities for me to do some other things. Not just women, but people. We just learned that we could talk to pretty much whoever in the world. Then people started to realize that they could say whatever they want to. Now, mind you, men were still being quiet. We wasn't saying shit. So then a lot of these narratives were created, and women started following these narratives and following each other and thinking these things. All the while learning that they can reach more and more people, or whatever the case may be. And all the while, anger building up and building up and building up. Then came these narratives that we don't stick around for our families and all of that stuff. And again, we kept being quiet or whatever the case may be, and those things grew and grew and grew. And here in the last 3 to 5 years, then it became we hate y'all and we do this and we can't stand y'all, especially in the last 3 years since we started talking when the pandemic hit. And then you started telling us how much you don't need us or whatever the case may be, and you felt so strong and all of these things, and you got this. All those narratives, and women never really got mad. Until now, when black men are actually really giving up on them. This is part 2. The problem is, just like you are a commodity to us, and the fact that you don't even have to say anything or say anything intelligent or do anything except post a picture of yourself looking good in order to get our attention, and you're a commodity to us. You had no idea that black men were a commodity to every shade of woman. Every shade of woman other than you, because the only thing you could tell us is how fucked up we are. And the only time you know to show us any love is when we die. It took for George Floyd to die in order for women to start publicly proclaiming, in order for black women to start publicly proclaiming, I love you, black man. Y'all remember? I love you, black man, even if the world doesn't. Well, part of that world that doesn't love us is you. See, through all that I said, all of that I said in part 1 of how we got here, you only loved what we could do for you. To the point that before I ever get the chance to even get to know you a little bit, you're already asking me to do some significant shit for you. Now, the one thing that black men understood and always understood was that when you were threatening to go and get you a white man, we knew he didn't want you for keeps. Why? Because of how out front you have been over the last 10 to 13, 15 years with your attitude. Do you think he wasn't watching? They're always watching. So once again, I'm not a passport bro. But I'm going to explain something, a little something to y'all. See, 3 years ago when we went into the pandemic, I've already explained to people, just check out my YouTube. I've already explained to people that we started talking because we realized that this shit was getting out of hand. And for the passport bros, that was their last ditch effort. Because when we say something, it's not valid. You don't care. It's all about what you think. You took those cliches, happy life, happy wife, you took all of those things and you ran with it. And then you started to think that your happiness was the only thing that mattered because you underestimated the fact that you thought only white women would fuck with a black dude. And the world will fuck with a black dude. And unfortunately, you never understood that until you saw all of these men now starting to give up and go find what it is that they want. So, ladies, please understand this. This is part 3. This is the final one I'm going to do. Your weakness, your real weakness, is a man who doesn't want you. That's where you put your attention to, which explains so much more than you ever, like all the stuff that you've been complaining about how you've gone through all of this stuff or whatever the case may be. That shit explains so much about that. So when these passport bros have come out and decided that they were going to give up, look at how much attention you've given those passport bros. So that is your real weakness, and that's what they have exposed. But even more than that, your real weakness is the fear of actually having what it is that you've been, number one, accusing us of all of these years when it was never true. Talking about how we gave up on y'all, walked out on y'all, all of this stuff, when it was never true, because you don't even have to do much in order to get our attention. You don't have to say anything smart. You can just look pretty. You don't have to say anything really. You can look pretty and get our attention. But not only that, how you've been keeping this energy about being cool with being alone and not wanting us and not needing us or whatever the case may be, because the whole time that you've been saying that, you've been able to enjoy the amenities that come with dating, that's supposed to come with dating, because guys have still been pursuing you while you were feeling that way and never wanted to give them a real chance. So now that they don't want you, now you have a fear, an actual fear of those things coming to an end, and therefore you really end up being lonely. Now I'm gonna explain some real shit to y'all that's going on right now. Y'all think it's not a real thing that's going on with these passport bros? Ladies and gentlemen, it takes you 12 weeks longer right now in this minute. It takes you 12 weeks longer to get a passport than it normally does. 12 weeks longer. Because they're backed up like that. It's a real thing. Number 2, y'all better stop lashing out at them women, because y'all ain't doing nothing but making fools of yourself. They putting y'all on the next video I'm gonna post. They putting y'all on fucking TV over there, putting y'all on commercials and all kinds of shit. And y'all are being considered terrorists now. Finally, it only took 60 years for us to get to this point. 60 years of you choosing the government over us, choosing your friends over us, choosing our death over us, choosing everything over us except for choosing us. So,